Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. I've been working on something for a couple of days now, and I want to bring it to you for help. Need help? Uh, this date, November 30th, keeps popping up. It doesn't appear on my timeline. Up until now, it didn't line up with anything, but I've been seeing it. I said in the last video, it keeps popping up, so I need to check into it. So I made another timeline. Sister Sandy offered to put it in a format on the computer, which looks a lot nicer than what I have. But I said not yet because I'm still working on it. And hopefully, in the comments section, you guys can see other relationships with numbers if your mind works like mine does, as far as uniformity of numbers, sequence of numbers, and how they line up and start to make sense when you see it. I've always said that the closer we get to the rapture, the more God is going to reveal to us. And the date, the exact date for the rapture is written right in the Bible. And when we get there, we're going to be like, well, you didn't tell me. He's going to be like, yeah, I did. It was written right here. Um, fulfilling Amos 3:7. Uh, I don't believe in any new revelation. I believe the Bible's done. It's printed. Every word in it is what we need to figure this out. And only those who are searching diligently, not just those who are searching diligently, but also watching and using their gift towards understanding when the rapture is going to occur. It's our dream, right? It's our dream. It's what we dream of. It's what we want so bad we can't think of anything else. And I've spent days on this, for example, and it's been awesome because it puts you back into the Bible, keeps you studying, and trying to figure out when this event is going to take place. Do I know exactly? No, I haven't had a visit from an angel at the foot of my bed saying, wake up, this is it, this is when it's going to happen. But in the meantime, we'll keep taking those steps across that creek. I do believe 2023 still is the year. We're running out of time for this year. God is not going to take us out of here early. He's going to leave us here until the last possible second because there's going to be just that one more person. Date of the rapture was written before the foundations of the world. That's why I don't say it's imminent. It is not imminent. It is an exact day, and it is written in the Bible for us to seek out, try to find. And on the way, as we try to do this, we learn more and more about the Bible as we go. So there's a guy in the Clapper app of Cool Cat. His name is Lee Charles. And what he's doing, which is really cool, is he's taking all the dates he finds in the Bible and he's putting them into a format where if you say, I want to know where in the Bible it says 1,260 days, you can go in there and see it. And I'm going to show you a screenshot he sent me. Now, of course, with the 1,260 days, let's use 5 months for an example. It says 5 months. It says 150 days. It says 153 days. So you have to find all of those different formats to put them into his program so that when you punch in 5 months, it'll bring all the other ones up too. So that's what he's working on. So he's doing the same thing. He's searching and trying to figure it out. And he's putting stuff together which will enable the rest who are numerically inclined to get into the relationship between the numbers, so the symmetrics of it. So let me get into the pictures. And sorry for the pictures. I've been scatterbrained working on this for a couple of days. They're not in order, and it might be a little confusing to some. You might want to get a piece of paper and a pencil so that you can write them down so that you can see what I'm talking about. I did build a timeline so I can show you that towards the end. Now, a lot of stuff I'm going to ask you to remember as we go through this. It's quite a bit. And if you're just here for a date, November 30th is crazy high watch day that I'm looking at, which is 12 days from now. It's still quite a ways away. And like I always say, just because I see November 30th doesn't mean that God won't pull us out of here before we thought. There's a verse that says, you'll go before you thought you did. So we might actually fill the date out, figure a date out that he's led us to, but go earlier than that. So the rapture is any moment as far as our perspective. For us, it's kind of imminent, but not for God. That date was signed, sealed, and delivered 6,000 years ago. That's the date it's going to happen. Everything else is us working our way towards it. So let me get into the pictures. Hopefully, they're not confusing. Let me start up here. And you know that the that when God began creating, He did it on a Saturday night. It became Sunday at nightfall. I'm aware there was no sun, but God is God and He knows what 24 hours is. And He began creating Saturday night. Sunday begins as soon as the sun sets in Israel. That is Sunday. So always keep that in mind whenever that's used to stump me, but then I realized God counts time different than we do. And the evening and the morning were the first day. He starts at nightfall. That's the day begins at nightfall, not at midnight, not when the sun rises. It begins at nightfall. I showed you this last video. I don't remember how long ago it was, but in Luke, for the bride, all of the stuff that we're looking for has already begun to happen. That's it. It's already begun. And just like it says in the last part of this in 28, and when we see these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. So we're in this right now. This has not happened yet. They have not seen all of these things. But then he will gather this group of people. It's the same verse you see in First and Second Thessalonians. Here's the rapture. Here's the gathering. The saints are gathered. Okay, and then of course the Jew will be looking not to follow the Antichrist. All right, this is the passage that kind of got me going. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white and all ready to harvest. Where do you apply that 4 months? Where do you put it? I found it. I found where to put it. These 4 months right here are telling us that we go before some event. The harvest is ready before the harvest is ready. There's still 4 months until the harvest. Now, go ahead and look out there. So they're already white and they're already ready for harvest 4 months earlier. So keep that in mind, those 4 months. I'll show that to you towards the end. And remember, everything I found, every single date will fit on the timeline. I'm not 100% certain, of course, that the 4 months apply to where I put it. But if it's symmetrical and it fits, I put it on there. All right. Sorry, I got a sore throat. The timeline. We are here. You'll notice I do not have November 30th. I never have. It has not lined up with anything I've ever found. What I found is something new. It's not what I have ever found in the past. I know Hanukkah begins at nightfall on December 7th, Kislev 24. I know it runs for 8 days and ends on December 15th, which is Tevet 1. In the book of Jubilees, you'll see that Adam was removed from the garden on the 4th month and first day, on Tevet 1, December the 15th. He was allowed, apparently, to stay in the garden until the very end of Hanukkah. After 40 days and 40 nights of rain, sorry about that, on Kislev 27 at night, December 10th at night, becoming the 11th, the flood ends. It stops raining. 150 days after the rain began, this is biblical. This isn't me making dates happen the way I want them to because I don't follow the first sliver of the moon. The Bible is abundantly clear that 150 days after it began, and everyone in the world said that the flood began on October the 31st. If you count 150 days after the flood, this is where you will land. You will land at the cross, right there. Jesus on the cross. This is when John was born. This is when the 150 days ended, and the water now just begins to recede. Remember, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. He stayed up there for another 110 days, for a total of 150 days, and then the Bible's clear. That's when the waters began to recede from that moment there. Now, it also says that in the seventh month and the 17th day, the ark rested. And that's the day Jesus rises. The ark rests 153 days or 5 months after the rain began on October the 31st. This is why you can't follow the moon. There's no passage in the Bible that tells us to follow the first sliver of the moon. They're seeing a word called Kaseh, which means hidden day, and they're associating it with the 3 days that the moon is dark, and they're saying that's what's hidden. That's not what's hidden. On April the 3rd, he rises. Nisan 17, April the 3rd, still at night. On April the 2nd, before sunrise, but it became April the 3rd at nightfall. That's when Jesus rose. You see here that the seventh month and 17th day would be Tishri 30 for Noah, and would be Nisan for Noah, and for Moses would be Tishri. Or is that backwards? It would be, Nisan for Moses. Yeah, that's correct. And then Tishri for Noah. All right, let's keep going here. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. This is the first command that God has handed down to Moses, the very first one. Before he does anything else, this is the very first one. God wants to make certain that time is understood. This passage right here moves it from September the 15th to March the 17th. March the 17th is now the head of the year. If you count 14 days after March 17th, you will land at the cross on Nisan 14, which is March 30th. That's exact, perfect. The 14th day of the first month is when Jesus went to the cross. So he makes this change. Now remember, they're using Noah's calendar from creation up until this moment right here. They were recognizing that Tishri was the head of the year. September 15th, they were recognizing that up until this moment right here. Then they had to move Rosh Hashanah, which means head of the year, back to March 17th. Exodus 40. On the first day of the first month shalt thou set up a tabernacle. This passage here is one of the passages I need help with. Tabernacles is all the way down here on September the 29th, September the 30th. That's the day Jesus was born. But we see here that they're setting up a tabernacle. This is where they're building the tabernacle. It takes them 1 year to do it. And it came to pass the first month in the second year that the tabernacle was reared up. It had been built. It took them a year to build it. They started building it on the first day of the first month, and it was completed on the first day of the first month in the second year. It took them a whole year to build that. So that was a little confusing, so I put that in there. If anybody wants to look at that, try to figure that out. Now here's where it starts with this new timeline right here. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the ninth month. We have an exact day here. It was the ninth month and the 20th day and the 20th day of the month. So, what date is that? Well, when I put it on the timeline, that is December the 3rd. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's not. December the 7th was Hanukkah begins, so I'm confused. But then I notice as I'm studying those 3 days. What do those 3 days represent? All the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. They began gathering themselves together on November the 30th. After 3 days of them gathering themselves together, they were sitting. It was the ninth month and 20th day of the month, and all the people sat in the street of the house of God, trembling because of this matter and for the great rain. What are they talking about here? 3 days before December the 3rd is November the 30th. So keep that in your back pocket. We'll keep going until we get to the timeline. Now, in Haggai, to Cool Cat's credit, I said that there were two dates pointing us to the 24th day of the ninth month. And he said, no, there's three. And I went back and he was correct. That's what initially started this thing that I'm doing. I want you to notice here in the 6th month, in the first day of the month, so we have the 6th month and the first day, came the word of the Lord by Haggai. What date? What does that fall on? That would be Elul 1, the 6th month. This is the day Jesus was baptized, and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights on this day. So we know now that it's pointing us to Jesus. Haggai 1, again, in the 4 and 20th day of the 6th month. Now we're 24 days later. Second year of Darius the king. Haggai 1:15. That is Elul 24, because Elul 1 was the first, was when Jesus was baptized and fasted. And Elul 24 is September the 7th. And we're just going to track Haggai all the way down the timeline. In the 7th month, and in the 1 and 20th day, this is the 6th month and the 24th day. This is the 7th month and the 21st day, the word of the Lord came the word of the Lord by the prophet Haggai, saying, so when I go here and look, and we all know what the 7th month and the first day is, that's the Feast of Trumpets. That day falls on the Feast of Trumpets, which is September the 15th. Even this year, the Hebrew calendar is lining up with mine, and I believe they said the Feast of Trumpets was on September the 15th. Some tried to use the moon, but for the most part, it was September the 15th. Next date. In the 4 and 20th day of the ninth month. Now there's that 4 and 20th day. He doesn't repeat it once. He doesn't repeat it twice. He repeats it 3 times. He skips from the 7th month and the 21st day all the way down to the ninth month, 2 months later, in the 24th day, 2 months and 3 days. The 4 and 20th day of the ninth month, in the second year of Darius, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, we will find this date 3 different times. Is there another passage in the Bible anywhere where it gives a date 3 separate times? I asked that question last time for 2, and then Kelly was like, no, it's in there 3 times. I was like, what? And I went back, and here it is again. Haggai 2, that was Haggai 2:10. Here's Haggai 2:18. Consider, when he says consider, it means look at this. Consider now from this day and upward, from the 4 and 20th day of the ninth month, even from the day that the foundations of the Lord's temple was laid. Wait a minute. What does that mean? Remember when the Lord's temple was laid? It was Elul 1. He spoke about it, the first thing. Elul 1 is when the Lord's temple was laid. How many days is it from the day the Lord's temple was laid? 6th month, the first day of the month, and the fourth, from when they began laying the temple. We come back down here. We find that this date is December the 7th. It's Hanukkah. This is the day that Haggai, sorry, that, Haggai is pointed to as Hanukkah. Kislev 24, December 7th. At nightfall, it becomes Hanukkah. Look at what it says here. At this moment right here, this is the response to that. It's giving you an exact timeline. That's why it's telling you it's from the day the Lord's foundations were laid. We know that happened back on Elul 1 on August 15th, the day Jesus was baptized. That's the day this foundation was laid. That's the day they built it. It took them a year to build it, and 1 year later it was done. What day was it done? Also on the 6th month and the first day on Elul 1. We go back here, 6th month, first day. Let me see here. Darius king in the 6th month and the first day came the word, and that's when it was finished. Did I do that right? Let me make sure I did that right. Yep, 7th month, and the one, yeah, so that's it right there. Okay, so we're going to go forward now. And we see this date repeated a third time. And again, the word of the Lord came unto Haggai in the 24th day of the month. Here we go with that same date again. That's Hanukkah. It's repeated 3 separate times. And I'll show you that on a timeline here in a moment. I need to go back. I think I messed up, and I want to make sure that I don't say something wrong. Right? I want to make sure that that's when the temple was built. Hold a minute. No, that's not there. Okay. In the first day, the first month, that's 7/1. Okay. Yeah, I've made, okay, I see now. That is Tishri 1. That is a different date, but I have it on the timeline anyway. I just forgot. That's 84 days from December the 7th. So I'll show you that on the timeline here in a moment. Little hiccup there. All right. Haggai is done. Now we get into the time stretches. I want to show you before I show you the timeline. These are the stretches of time from August 15th, when Jesus was baptized, up to Hanukkah. It is 115 days exactly. From Hanukkah to the day Jesus went to the cross, it's 115 days again. Jesus baptized, starts 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, and on December the 7th is the first day of Hanukkah. Remember, there I didn't copy that, but there is a passage in there where Jesus was going to a feast. I'm not sure if it was Hanukkah. I think they said it was Hanukkah, but Cool Cat will work that out better than me. Then December 7th to March 30th, the day Jesus went to the cross. Remember, I showed you it has to be 150 days after the flood began. That's when the waters began to go down. That's when Jesus died on the cross and they put him down in the grave. And 3 days later, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. That represents Jesus rising, and we rest 100% in Jesus. That's it. That's why we cannot ever use the moon to determine the head of anything. Not the sliver. We can use the moon. The moon is used as a blood moon, and it's a very clear warning as to things that are coming, but it is not used to begin a year or a month. All right. September the 15th. Let me find it on here. The Feast of Trumpets. September the 15th, the Feast of Trumpets, the head of the year in Noah's time. From there, and that's what I was talking about a moment ago with that passage. From there to December 7th is 84 days, exactly 84 days, and to Hanukkah. So from Tishri 1 to Hanukkah, it's 84 days. November 30th, that day that just keeps popping up, that I don't know why, because it doesn't fall on my timeline anywhere. I can't find anything else. It has become symmetrical. November 30th to the day Jesus went to the cross is 122 days. November 30th, what did I do here? It's 122 days from November 30th, that day that just keeps popping up to the cross, 122 days. Now, if we use the 2,520 days from November 30th, who knew to ever count from November 30th? Like, it meant nothing. It does now, but it didn't then. November 30th of 2023, if you go forward 2,520 days, it lands on the day that Noah is told to get into the ark. This is the day Methuselah dies and he's buried. This is the day the ark is loaded, and Noah sits at the entrance of that ark for an entire week before it begins to rain. 1 week later, God closes the door and it begins to rain. That's 2,520 days from November the 30th. Now, notice this. From Hanukkah to October the 31st, the day the flood began, is 2,520 days. That is staggering. But that is why there's 1 week right there, November 30th to December the 7th. 2,520 days. I thought that was pretty incredible. Now, we get impatient, right? Oh man, we've had to wait these 84 days. We thought we were going on Tishri 1 on September the 15th, the Feast of Trumpets. We were all up, we're ready to go. This has to be it. I know it's going to sell your cars and your house. We're leaving. It didn't happen. Did we have to maintain patience until either November 30th or December 7th? Were we supposed to be patient? This is a woman named Anna. She's a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. She was of a great age. She lived with a husband for 7 years from her virginity. And she was a widow of about 84 years, which departed not from the temple, but served God with fastings and prayers night and day. And she came in that instant, gave thanks likewise unto the Lord, and spake of him to all of them that looked for redemption in Jerusalem. Picture this woman. The youngest age anyone can get married in this time is 14. You can become engaged at 13. You can marry at 14. She was married for 7 years. If we take the youngest possible age she could have been before she got married at the age of 14, and we put in, and I know today's society is no way, and I'm in agreement. My 14-year-old daughter's, well, she's not 14 anymore, but at the time she was definitely not ready for any of this. But this is biblical. 14 years old, she gets married, and she's married for 7 years. So that makes her now 21, and she's in the temple for 84 years. You add 21 to 84. She's 105 years old when Jesus sees her giving in the temple. And there's three different passages related to Anna and her giving and her sacrifice and everything she's done in the temple. She's at least 105 years old. Yeah, I found something. That's 105 days. So if we are as patient as she was, just think about it. 84 years, as patient as she was, then we'll be doing good. All right. December the 1st, which is November the 30th, the next day would be the first day. It is 1,216 days to May 14th. May 14th is the day Israel became a nation. I thought that was a pretty cool lineup. I think towards the end here, a lot of numbers that we saw we didn't know where to apply will begin perfectly symmetrically lining up on a timeline. All right, I wanted to remind you of this. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. They receded, and the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven. Now we know the rain and the fountains of the deep stopped after 40 days, but he's encompassing all of that story into this passage right here. Were restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of 150 days. All of that stuff transpired in 150 days, but the water began returning from off the earth after 150 days. That water stayed up until 150 days after it began. Then it began to recede continually. It took 3 days after the rain began to recede for the ark to set down on Mount Ararat. He wasn't that far above the mountain. I'm sure God put that boat right where he wanted it. And when the waters began to recede, the boat sat down on Mount Ararat perfectly, not to roll off or to fall down. It sat perfectly in a cradle where God wanted it to. Not so that when the door opened, no, to fall out the door off a mountain. No, he put it perfectly where it needed to be so that everything could get off that ark. They got off the ark, remember, 374 days after the flood began. It took 1 year and 10 days for the entire event to transpire from day one to the last day when he got off the ark on Heshbon 27. Started on Heshbon 17, ended on Heshbon 27. So, this is why I say we can't use the moon, because this is clearly pointing us to the cross. The cross happens 150 days after Halloween. If you move Halloween next year, you must count 150 days after Halloween to land on March 30th, but they don't. They don't line it up at all. So, and the ark rested in the 7th month and 17th day, which is 3 days later. The waters began to abate after 150 days, and 3 days later, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. What happens 3 days after Jesus goes to the cross? He rises. All right, here's the timeline in crayon. Remember that first date, Elul 1, mentioned in Haggai 1:1. You can go look them all up. Jesus was baptized and he fasted for 40 days. That event from Haggai 1 is exactly 115 days to Hanukkah. But there's this overlap that happens right here on November 30th. Remember that passage that says, "Are there not 4 months yet till the harvest?" He said, "Look out, everything's ready to go now." That happens on, I think I messed that up. Yeah, I put the arrow in the wrong spot. That happens on November 30th. 4 months later, from November 30th to March 30th, is exactly the day that Jesus went to the cross. 115 days after Kislev 24, December 7th, at night, Hanukkah, 115 days again lands on the cross. So we got the 4 months. Let's see here. Oh, I did that right. I did that right. Okay. Notice here, 4 months from November 30th lands on the cross, 122 days. 4 months, remember that passage where they were gathered together, took 3 days, they were finally gathered together? That date that it shows is the 20th day of the, what month is it? Kislev. Kislev is, let me see here. Kislev is the 9th month. Haggai's talking about the 9th month. And the 24th day from that moment is 84 days from Tishri 1. Is that where I was going with that? I had to look it up. Yeah, the 9th month and 24th day. Whoops. It gives it 3 different times too in Haggai. Haggai 2:10, Haggai 2:18, Haggai 2:20. From Kislev 20, that's where I was. Kislev 20, December the 3rd, there's 3 days it took them to gather. The Bible says that in Ezra 10:19, it's 10:9. I don't know why I wrote a 19. It's 10:9. In Ezra 10:9, you count 4 months, and guess where it lands? It lands on the cross perfectly. It all surrounds Jesus. Everything ends up either on the cross or on Resurrection Day. It is from the last day of Hanukkah, from when Adam was removed from the garden, Tevet 1, December the 9th. It is exactly 105 days until the cross. How old was Anna? Did I write it on here? I didn't write it on here. No. Anna was 105 years old at least when she was in the temple. She was 84 years in the temple as a widow, Tishri 1, September 15th, up until Hanukkah is 84 days. So I wanted to bring this to you so you can see this is a work in progress. I'm still working on all the numbers and trying to get them in there. I just found it crazy how 115 days from there to December 7th. And then we have this 4-month thing that's mentioned in Ezra 9, 10:9, and it goes and it lands on the cross. And if you use those 3 days and say, okay, now they're sitting down in front of the temple and they're all nervous and shaking, and you count from that moment, Kislev 20, and you go 4 months, you land at the day Jesus rose. So it's all surrounding Jesus. And this is what Lee Charles is working on, and he's putting a program together where he will find all of these numbers that are related in spite of how they're written out. 1,260 in numbers, 1,260 written out. So he's putting them all together. 1,260 days was pretty cool. Just by the way it landed, it was mentioned twice, which makes 25, 20, and then we saw where that went. So anyway, there we go. All right, that's what I have so far. Still working on it. Again, you can go anytime. Rapture doesn't have to wait on me to figure this out. But uh, you see all those numbers and the relationships they have with each other and the symmetrics. Just drop me a comment to see if you have anything else that will fall in there. Um, I have posted this in both Discord and Cool Cats Clapper app to take a look at. And if you see something more or know of another date somewhere that we could set on this thing, it's just amazing how in Ezra 9, we're seeing November the 30th, 3 days, and then 3 days later, we're seeing December the 3rd. And we know what's 3 days apart: the cross, the resurrection. And it's right there. And we have that passage that says 4 months. It's still 4 months until the harvest. Yeah, but it's ready now. We're at it. We're at 4 months early. That's November the 30th. So it's 12 days. Still got time. And I'm going to keep working on this and looking for input. And remember, go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody. And accept the Lord into your heart. Uh, You'll find that in Matthew 6, 5, and 6. And if you decide to do that, know that John 6:44 comes into play. That if you decide to do this, because God was calling you already anyway. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll keep working on this. This is a rough draft, and I'll get it put together a little bit better. And once I get it all put out, then I'll have Sister Sandy put it on, or if she will, she doesn't have to do anything. But if she would put it onto a computer program so it's easier to see and understand. So, all right, we'll chat with you again later.